Hi, Buttes. Thanks so much for joining me. My name is Zana, and this is Fire Story Yoga. I'm delighted that you are here in the Fire Story Yoga community and that we're doing this chakra immersion together. Just want to do a quick little health and safety notice just to begin with, get the boring stuff out of the way, but it's important. Just to draw your attention to the fact that there's a little health and safety notice just at the start of the course, which just says, please make sure that you're in good physical health before embarking on this course. It's always a good idea to just get checked over by a doctor or someone if you're embarking on a new physical program of any sort. And obviously, please make sure that each day when you come to practice, you check in with yourself and see that you are okay physically to practice. So that's out of the way. Let's talk about what this course is all about. I'm so excited by it. It's an invitation to find connection, and that's going to bring about a great sense of magic and joy in your life. Connection is by far and away the most important thing that we need as human beings, and we'll look really deeply into that. It's an invitation to come home to yourself. Talk a bit more about what that means as well a little bit later, but that's going to give you this feeling of great freedom and great release. And it's also an invitation to place yourself within the context of the world around you, which is going to return you to this sort of beautiful sense of rhythm alongside nature. So connection, yoga is connection. The meaning of the word yoga is union or connection. Connection of what? Well, it's the connection between yourself and your higher self. In Sanskrit, you would call that the connection between the Atman and the Brahman. The Atman being your soul and Brahman being the source. It doesn't matter what we believe source to be. Yoga doesn't care what your beliefs are, which is great because it means that it's open to everybody and everybody can have the benefits of this practice. But yoga does care that you do connect to something. And with Fire Story Yoga, we are going to look at the yoga that is beyond just asana. So it's deeply rooted in the original meaning of what yoga was, what it was to practice yoga. And essentially what it was to practice yoga was to find a greater sense of connection between you and something greater than you. It's that little bit of you that's the same, that's in every living thing, that's in like the droplet of you that's the same as in the sun, in the ocean, in the trees. And that piece of you is quite simply yearning to get back to that whole, if you like. And I really like the Joni Mitchell song here, and I always misquote it, so don't hold that against me. But we are stardust, we are golden, and we've got to get ourselves back to the garden. And I love that idea because essentially we are just stardust, bits of golden star, yearning to get back to something bigger than ourselves. Okay, so I mentioned that what we do to do that, the things that we do in Fire Story Yoga is obviously we do asana practice because that's fun. It's good to move your body, and obviously it's key to releasing some of the things that are trapped there emotionally, which we'll talk about in just a second. And then on top of that, we look at meditation, breath work, chakra healing, nature connection, and ritual. Quite a lot of those things are obvious. Ritual, I just want to talk to you about for a sense, for a second or two. So why ritual? Well, ritual has been used for centuries to mark transformation. So you acknowledge with a ritual that you enter the ritual as something, and then the ritual takes place, and then you exit that ritual as something else. So marriage is a really, really good example of that. You come to your marriage ceremony as one thing, and then there are lots of nice things that happen, and symbolic things that happen, and then you leave that ceremony as essentially something else. And it literally, by doing these little rituals and by using little symbols and things to help us, it literally gives the brain something to kind of hook onto, to be aware that there is a change happening. And it's like a kind of routing, if you like, of the brain to the transformation process. And which brings me on to my other thing that, again, we'll come back to, and that the brain doesn't actually know the difference between a real or an imagined event. So if you tell yourself something enough, eventually we will start believing it. And that's the phenomenon that I find really, really interesting in terms of how we can use our kind of own programming, if you like, of our brains to effect change and transformation for the better. So alongside the ritual, something that I would definitely recommend that you guys do is you create like a little sort of sacred tray, almost like a sacred kind of plate of things that you like to do at the start of your ritual. So that could be, you could have a little candle on your tray, you could have some incense, you could have maybe an oil burner with some aromatherapy oils ready to burn. You could have like a little statue of one of the Hindu gods, or you could have like a Buddha, or you could have, some sort of something that grounds you in the idea that this is going to be your sacred practice. You might want to have some crystals or stones or a plant, something that reminds you of the earth. It's entirely up to you what you put on your little tray, but the whole point of it is that then whenever you come together to practice this little course, you can start your session by lighting your candle, lighting your incense, and it just is a signal to your brain, okay, now it's time for us to do our work. Now it's time for us to relax and to bring about calm. And the more little sensory hooks you've got going on there, the better, because it will help to communicate to your brain that there is a transformation in progress here. So let's talk a little bit about chakras and what that is, why the chakras, what are the chakras. So Jung said, until you make the conscious, no he didn't, I'm going to read it 1 second. Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will rule your life and you will call it fate. Okay, let's go again with that. So, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will rule your life and you will call it fate. As long as, in other words, you feel that life is coming at you, that the world is out to get you, that you are a victim of your life and your circumstances and in the position that you find yourself in, as long as you feel like you are disempowered, you will be. You will be unaware of your power and unaware of the agency that you have in creating your life. So when people are kind of unaware of this, when they're not yet conscious of their own power, there are sort of sentences like, it's just the way I am, or I always do that, or I'm always this. And that's a really, really kind of key sentence in not being conscious yet, not being empowered by your own self. So what the chakras do is they provide a roadmap to becoming conscious, becoming awake, becoming enlightened. That idea that enlightenment actually isn't such a big ideal. You don't need to go off and sit in the Himalayan mountains and meditate for 1,000 years in order to become enlightened. It's actually your birthright. You only have to look into the eyes of a newborn baby and spend some time in a newborn's presence to realise that they're just fully enlightened the whole time. It's just a state of bliss. That's what we're looking for, and that's what we're trying to bring about. And obviously that bliss isn't, life is going to come and challenge that state of bliss, but it's about having the spiritual toolkit that can overcome the stuff that life throws at you to maintain a state of bliss more of the time. So as life goes, forward from birth, if you like, from that sort of enlightened, blissful state, life happens, and that's all that happens, is that stuff covers up your bliss. If you think of it as though you have like a light within you, your internal sun, and you are shining, and life comes along and shit happens, because it does, and it just dims your light a little bit, just covers over a little bit of that shining light that is you. And this work, if we use the chakras as our system to go through conscious mind, the levels of consciousness, what we can do is we can uncover the light again, essentially. That's all we're doing. So each chakra, as I just mentioned, is a wheel, if you like, or a level of consciousness. It's all a bit of a metaphor, but it's a very handy one. It's a very, very handy system to delve deep into the things that might be covering over our light and stopping us from feeling our bliss. So we look at the different levels of consciousness. We explore and free up any stuck energy, any patterns of behaviour that have become rooted, ingrained, any negative blocks that we have, or just any blocks where we're not yet free. And we feel that in our bodies. We feel that sense of not being free as tightness, as uptightness, as agitation, as resistance, and as tension. And the body is a really marvellous communicator if we listen to it. And that it communicates our emotion, it communicates our psyche, essentially. And it can only communicate the truth from within you. It can only communicate what you are feeling, ultimately, or what you have felt. That sort of idea that every emotional experience we've had is arguably logged in our body, which is why we need to release the body, release those points of tension in order to heal. So when we journey through the chakras, we allow ourselves to become aware of that resistance. We allow ourselves to consciously tune in to the different levels in the body, remembering that the chakras actually work on the physical body. They go from the base of the spine all the way to the top of the head, and at each level is a different level of consciousness, and at each level we get to explore different relationships, different hurts, different things that have happened in our lives at these levels, and we get to just unravel them a little bit and unblock them, so that the good energy can all flow really nicely through our body and essentially just make us feel a little bit better. So as we become aware of the resistance, as we become aware of where we're not yet free, it's an opportunity for us to dig deep into our patterns, into our life experience, into the way in which we react to things, and to explore where that resistance comes from, and to take back the power of how we experience and participate in our lives, to shift our perception from things that are problematic to things that no longer cause us an issue. And that's all about the way in which we look at stuff. We have the power to perceive the events and things that happen to us in our life as we want to. We are empowered to do that. So we also get to restructure our priorities to create better circumstances for health and for well-being. To create a better container, if you like, if you think your body is the container that holds the bliss. So it needs to be a good, strong container. And we do this through using our yoga poses, our asana practice. We do it through using meditation, breath work, and nature connection, and ritual. And all of that together with combined with a sort of exploration into the deeper psychological things that are going along within us is chakra healing. And that's what it's all about. So I hope that gives you a really good sense of what we're doing, where we're heading. And obviously I'm here for you to chat to anytime you want to. You can direct message me on Instagram, Firestory Yoga. You can email me at firestoryyoga@gmail.com. And also there's the Firestory Yoga Tribe over on Facebook, which I think some of you are definitely members of. I can make sure I put a link to that down in the welcome message. So enjoy this journey. It's going to be really exciting, and check in anytime you need to. I'm always here for you. Thanks again for being part of this community. It's really, really exciting and fabulous to have you here. Okay, lots of love to you.